Hi, I'm Steve Luther. I'm a trainer with the Splankna Institute, and we are bringing Splankna training to Pittsburgh. This is the second video I've recorded on this. If you haven't seen the first one, it explains a lot about what Splankna is and how it works. In this video, I want to just share my personal experience with it. What I have seen both personally and professionally is that number one, Splankna opens up a person's connection to God. They immediately begin to get closer to God. That connection with God, it's almost like the barriers there begin to be removed one at a time, and that connection with God opens up. The second thing is that the person becomes more who they are. They become more of themselves. And sometimes people, well, I don't want to do something that's going to change me into something I'm not. Well, that's not what Splankna does. It removes the limitations and the barriers that have gotten in the way of you being you and you being able to fulfill what God has called you to. My personal experience is that when I went through Splankna, number one, that connection did open up with God. I immediately began to just feel like I wanted to pray a lot more. I began to just experience God a lot more intimately. And then the next thing I noticed is that one of my issues was that I had put on a lot of weight and got really unhealthy as I got into more of my sedentary job working as a counselor. I used to be real active, real athletic. I was always a runner. I was into wilderness therapy, doing backpacking and rock climbing. It was just who I was. I was always active and athletic and in shape and healthy. And over about 15 years that had slipped away, and I gained about 50 or 60 pounds and became really inactive and unhealthy. One of the things that I saw, one of the big changes, was that I began to see that I no longer had the need to emotionally eat or do some of the habits that kept me unhealthy. And I began to change. I began to become that person again that was healthy and in shape and active. Over the course of about a year, I lost 60 pounds. And after that, I began to run again, and I've now run 2 marathons and a half marathon, and I'm training for another marathon. That's who I am. I became a vegan. I became a runner. That's not going to be your experience, because that's maybe not who you are. But who you are will begin to emerge and become more prominent, and you'll be able to be the you that you're supposed to be. With clients, I've seen marriages restored. I've seen anxiety disorders and phobias lift very quickly. I've seen people become much less depressed. I've seen people get active in church, become more active in their lives. I've seen people that have had various physical problems and chronic pain and things like that have been able to be resolved with Splankna, because it gets to the root of what's causing these problems. These problems are stored in our mind-body connection. The brain is a physical organ in your head. The mind, as Christians, we've always known that we have a soul and a spirit, and that's that immaterial thing that makes you you, that makes you aware of who you are. When I studied biology in school, they told me it's just all in your brain. It's just all this wiring in your brain. And I said, well, how am I aware of myself? How do I have that awareness? And they didn't really have an answer for that. Well, now science is coming out and saying, oh wait, there is a mind that's different from the body. And so we now know this scientifically, that this mind is throughout our whole body. And so as Christians, we can use that because God created us that way. We don't have to be afraid of that. We can use the mind-body connection and how traumas are stored in our body, in our system, in our mind, and we can release the emotional connections to that so that we no longer are drawn away from who we're supposed to be, and we can become the person that God called us to be. Who is that person that you're called to be, that you're supposed to be, that life's experiences and life's hurts have gotten in the way of you being? Are you in ministry? Are you a counselor? Are you a pastor? Do you like helping people? Or do you just want to be able to help people in your life experience that freedom, become more who they are? Do you want to become more who you are? Then I'd encourage you to check out our training. We're bringing this training to Pittsburgh. It's a healing ministry that is biblical, Christ-centered. We do a lot of prayer, a lot of forgiveness, a lot of healing ministry and spiritual warfare. It's all put into one protocol that helps us get directly to the root of these issues. If you're interested in that, I'd encourage you to consider coming to our next training. You can find that on our website, thegracewellnesscenter.com. Under the events page, you can scroll down and find the next training, or you can just go to splankna.com and you can read about this and watch videos that they have on their website that explain it more. I'd really encourage you to do that, and I hope to see you at one of our future trainings.